Good day. Happy Monday. Welcome back to a chapter a day. We are going to be reading 2 Samuel chapter 13 today. Wow. Yesterday in chapter 12, we saw God's judgment on David for what he did. Remember, God is a God of vengeance as much as he's a God of love. Because David did some things that were not pleasing unto God. So God told him, first of all, the child that he had with Uriah's wife would die, and then the sword will not depart from his house. He will have evil happening from within his house, and the wives that he had, they will be slept with in open, so people will see what's going on. Oh, wow. Chapter 13. But he went about his business because he realized, you know what? God's judgment was fair. So he knows, he doesn't know in what way it will come, but he knows God's judgment is going to be taking place on him and his household, unfortunately. Chapter 13. And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon, the son of David, loved her. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemiah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. And he said unto him, Why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it at her hand. Okay, here's what. You lift a rock and you can find a snake anywhere, especially if you're looking for one. And not too many people go out looking for them. Here is Absalom, well, rather Amnon, who is, now, this is what happens when you don't follow God's way. God said a king should have one wife. How many does David have? How many did the previous king Saul have? How many will the following kings have? As many as they wish. And that's aside from concubines. So David has multiple wives, and we've heard of some of the children he's had with these women listed. When we get to Chronicles, they will list them even in more detail. But for now, his son Amnon has a strong liking, I would say, loving, got nothing to do with it. A strong liking or an attraction for his half-sister. Because remember, they all have the same father, David, but not the same mother. So this sister belongs to a brother called Absalom. They are both from the same mothers. So that's why they mention Absalom, because we're going to be hearing about him later on. So this situation is happening majorly between Amnon, David's son, and Tamar, David's daughter. But they are half siblings because they have different mothers, okay? He likes her. He maybe wants to have a relationship with her. So he's telling, now he's getting sick. He's getting sick here. And it's showing here, the rest of his body. This devious man by the name of Jonadab gives him an idea to pretend that he is sick. I don't know, for some reason Jonadab just reminded me of Abner. I just don't know why. Same snakish qualities maybe. So when he pretends that he's sick, his father will come to see him, that's David, and Amnon can request that his sister Tamar comes to him and cooks and feeds him in his sight. Let's see how that works out. Verse 6. So Amnon lay down and made himself sick, and when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house and dress him meat. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down, and she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Have out all men from me. And they went out every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. Now I'm going to say this, like I said before, with his father David, the temptation was not the sin. I'm sure he may have been seeing his half-sister Tamar since maybe they were growing up as children. They maybe, I'm thinking of them as maybe teenagers, late teens to early 20s is my mindset as to how old they are now. He's seeing her. He has an attraction for her. This is an attraction. It's an attraction. She's beautiful. He is lusting till in his mind he's getting sick, and it's showing in his body. This man by the name of Jonadab suggests that he tricked the dad into playing he's sick so that the dad will send the sister. He's going to request the sister to come, make him cakes, and he will eat from her hand. I don't know if that's a remedy for sickness, but for him, I guess. So he does that, and Tamar comes, she's cooking the meat. Then Amnon sends everybody out of his chambers. Remember, he's a king's son, so he must have a lovely little setup by himself. Everyone he orders out of the room, so it's just he and Tamar. Verse 11. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. And I, whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, Arise, be gone. All right. You see, this is where my anger just start to rise. This lustful, lecherous louse named Amnon, in his mind is feasting on having an affair with his sister. Ain't nothing to do with love. It's lust. When he does, she didn't want it. She said this thing ought not to be. Talk to dad. He will allow it because, Abraham and Sarah were half and half. Who else? Was it Isaac and Rebecca too? Yeah, half and half. Or something to that effect. Cousins, yeah. Half sister, half brother, cousins. They did that. I don't think it was allowed when God gave them the commandments and the laws. But for some reason, I guess, it was still permissible. They were still allowing it, I would say. Not that it was permissible. They were allowing it. But he didn't listen to her. And he forced her, aka raped her. And when he was finished having his way, it didn't please him. This is what happens to a lot of us. Young women, I would say this. You think that you're the most desirable thing that a man wants. And that, you know what, he cannot live unless he has you. Stop fooling yourself. That's rubbish. Every female falls into that category with every male. Trust me. If they close their eyes, trust me, it doesn't matter to them. But we in our own vanity and foolishness thinks, oh yes, me, I'm special. Oh, those other girls, no, he didn't really want them. It's me. He don't want you. He just wants what he wants. It's lust. It ain't got nothing to do with love. Love does not do that. Love waits. Love does not coerce. He forced his sister. He raped half-sister. Let's see what happens now. And then after that, didn't want her. Did not want her. Tell her, get lost. Verse 16. And she said unto him, there is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken to her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of divers colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of divers colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. And Absalom her brother said unto her, hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister, he is thy brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. You know what? Anyway, we'll hear what goes on later on. He treated her like a dog. He wanted her lustfully, had her, was displeased, because you know what? The imaginations which Satan promotes is always more appealing than the act, the physical act itself, until it's done, until it's in the process and you realize this is not it. Because you know what? When the thought comes, it's wrong. Dismiss it. If you keep feeding it, what do you do? What happens to things that are fed? They grow. They mature. And from that, we get sin. It's not just the thought. It's the feeding of the thought. That's what he did. And then he treated his sister as less than nothing. She had to go about renting her clothes and being in sackcloth and ashes because she had to mourn herself. Her brother Absalom, thank God, she had somebody there to take care of her. And he told her, just, it's your brother. Hey, I can't worship in him right now, so we'll wait our time. That, in other words, that's what he's saying. Okay, verse 21. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very wroth. And Absalom spake unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it came to pass after 2 full years, that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, behold now, thy servant hath sheep shearers. Let the king, I beseech thee, and his servants go with thy servant. And the king said to Absalom, nay, my son, but let us not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. And he pressed him, howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. So, Absalom has a plan. A devious one. He's got some patience. I don't know if I would have had that much patience. I might have run up on Amnon right there and then. But he waited 2 years for things to kind of die down. Then he had, I guess when they were ready to harvest and have their sheep sheared and all that stuff, you know, he decided to invite the king's sons, and, you know, I think he maybe invited to the king also, but, you know. Backing up, David heard about what happened between Tamar and Amnon. Now, I'm thinking this. David was partial to the boys. I think as a man, he did not see women as worth much. I would say that. That's your daughter. I would have Amnon flogged, honestly, but that's his son. I'm saying that, but that's a hard thing to have to deal with. Remember what God told him. The sword will not depart from his house. Evil shall come from within. We're seeing it happening here. Okay. So we have the invitation from Absalom to all his brothers, the king's sons. Everybody's supposed to come to this banquet he'll be having as he brings in his harvest. Verse 26. Then said Absalom, if not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said unto him, why should he go with thee? But Absalom pressed him that he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him, fear not. Have not I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant. And they never do it themselves. Why don't you just do it yourself? Why are you telling me to do your dirty work? Verse 29, and the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man gat him up upon his mule and fled. And it came to pass, while they were in the way, that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom hath slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. I tell you, people can carry the wrong messages all the time, especially when it's bad news. Oh, one person died over there from an attack, you would hear the whole village die. This is exactly what's happening here. One son was killed. They told the king all his sons were killed. So let's see what is happening here now. Verse 31. Then the king arose and tore his garments and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. Did he do that for Tamar? He might as well have killed her, because in those days, after you have taken a woman's virginity, she really was not appealing for any other man. Truth be told. And I'm sure the message went around the kingdom. Everybody heard what Amnon did to his sister. And David was, being angry means nothing. We all get angry. What do we do about our anger? A lot of times. Now, he's the king. He's their father. He had a right to do something to Amnon. I would have banished him into some place for at least 7 years. And by himself. Yeah. Have servants, but that's it. Nobody else goes to see him for 7 years. That he did there was wrong. But as I said, women were not valued. They were just things. So, okay, verse 32. And Jonadab, the son of Shemiah, David's brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom, this hath been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore let not my lord the king, take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead. But Absalom fled, and the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside behind him. And Jonadab said unto the king, Behold, the king's sons come. As thy servant said, so it is. And it came to pass, as soon as he had made an end of speaking, that behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voice and wept. And the king also and all his servants wept very sore. But Absalom fled, and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. Now, sometimes the way some of these verses are read, it's kind of ambiguous, because the king mourned for his son every day. Which one? Was it Amnon or was it Absalom? I'm not sure which one he was mourning for. It says the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, because Absalom ran away. He was afraid of whatever repercussions would come from his actions of having his brother Amnon killed. And then it says late in the last part of that verse, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. I don't know. So he either was mourning for Amnon first, and then for Absalom, or whichever, you know what. Who mourned for Tamar? No, nobody. Absalom took care of it his way, because he realized his father did nothing. So he felt he needed to step in. It was his sister. I'm going to say this again. Sin starts here, and then it's carried out here. When we make it start rolling like a snowball up here, and we don't stop it, stamp it out. Stop. No more thinking that way. That's what happened to Amnon. That was lust. Had nothing to do with love. Threw his sister out after he raped her, and then the next brother, had to decide he's going to take vengeance. 2 years later, has his brother killed. I guess that justice was served. The law of Israel was blood for blood. You had to have blood spilled to redeem blood of someone else. So blood for blood, and there it was. Then Absalom ran away, so he lost 2 sons, and he had a daughter that was defiled, maybe never would get married, in his palace. And guess what? All he could do is mourn. But God told him. God told him. I'd say this again. Sometimes you see things are happening in people's lives, and you are so sorry and you're so pitiful. Only God knows. Only God knows what brought that on. Yes, we can be sorry for them, but only God knows. All right. That's the end of our reading of chapter 13 of 2 Samuel. Thank you all for listening once again. Remember, faith comes by hearing God's word. Until our next reading, take care.